Cowboys Nation, take a deep breath because what we are talking about right now is not just another rumor, not just another offseason whisper, but a potential franchise-shifting moment that could redefine the Dallas Cowboys' identity for years to come. Because when the name Tristan Wirfs enters the conversation and the words "yes to Dallas" start circulating, you are no longer talking about minor upgrades or depth pieces. You are talking about elite infrastructure, championship DNA, and the kind of offensive line move that changes how defensive coordinators across the league sleep at night. And before anyone rushes to downplay it, you need to understand the magnitude of who Tristan Wirfs is and why this matters so much for this organization at this exact moment in time. Because Wirfs is not just a good offensive lineman. He is one of the most complete, physically gifted, technically refined trench players of this generation, a Super Bowl champion who has already proven he can protect at the highest level on the biggest stage, a player who combines brute strength with rare athleticism, balance, hand placement, and football IQ. And when you watch his film, you don't see panic. You don't see lunging. You don't see desperation. You see control, leverage, patience, and violence in the right moments. The kind of lineman quarterbacks trust without even thinking about it. And that is exactly why this potential move is sending shockwaves through Cowboys circles, because Dallas has talent everywhere, skill players, quarterback, defensive stars, but what has betrayed them year after year in critical moments is not effort or coaching alone. It has been inconsistency in the trenches when the pressure is highest, when the margins are thin, when January football demands physical dominance instead of flash. And Tristan Wirfs represents the antithesis of fragility. He represents certainty. He represents reliability. He represents a blocker who can neutralize the game wreckers that define playoff matchups. And when you imagine him lining up in a Cowboys uniform, suddenly the entire offensive equation changes, because protection dictates everything. It dictates route depth, play calling confidence, downfield aggression, run game patience, and even how defenses choose to blitz. And that is where the real power of this move lies, because this is not about one player. This is about unlocking everything else Dallas already has, because Dak Prescott has shown time and time again that when he is protected and allowed to operate on rhythm, he is one of the most efficient quarterbacks in football. But when pressure leaks early, when edges collapse, when interior help has to slide too far, that rhythm disappears and the offense becomes predictable, compressed, and reactive. And that is not a Dak problem. That is a structural problem. And elite tackles solve structural problems. They don't just block, they erase entire sections of the defensive game plan. They force pass rushers to take longer paths. They force coordinators to blitz more creatively. They create one-on-ones elsewhere. And that is where stars like CeeDee Lamb thrive, because longer pockets mean deeper routes, double moves, extended plays that turn into back-breaking conversions. And when you pair that with a run game that suddenly has a dominant edge to run behind, you get balance. And balance is what separates regular season teams from playoff teams, because anyone can score in October, but only teams that can run when defenses know it's coming survive in January. And Tristan Wirfs is a run game enforcer, a lineman who doesn't just wall off defenders, but actively displaces them, who creates angles, who finishes blocks with authority. And that matters for a Cowboys offense that has often struggled to impose its will late in games. And then you zoom out even further and you realize the age and timeline factor, because Dallas has veteran linemen who are legends, but legends age, injuries accumulate, and succession planning becomes critical. And Tristan Wirfs is not a short-term fix. He is a decade-long solution, a cornerstone you build around, a player you pencil in every Sunday without hesitation. And that stability is priceless, especially in a division where pass rushers are getting younger, faster, and more aggressive because the NFC East is no longer a soft division. It is loaded with front seven talent, and neutralizing that talent is the first step toward domination. And if Dallas lands Wirfs, the ripple effect across the division would be immediate because now defensive coordinators have to account for a tackle who rarely needs help, which frees up tight ends, backs, and receivers to be weapons instead of blockers, and that is how offenses become unpredictable. And unpredictability is deadly. And this is also why the psychological element of this move cannot be ignored, because players know when management is serious about winning. Players feel it when front offices invest in protection, and locker rooms respond to that because nothing builds trust faster than knowing the quarterback is protected and the run game is supported. And this potential move sends a message that Dallas is not content with being good, not content with divisional success, but focused on sustainable championship contention. And that message resonates not just with fans, but with players around the league, and that is how franchises shift perception. And let's not ignore the playoff narrative either, because fair or not, the Cowboys have carried the label of postseason underachievement, and one of the quickest ways to silence narratives is to dominate the line of scrimmage when it matters most, because playoff football is ugly, it is tight, it is physical, and flashy plays are rare. But trench dominance travels, and Tristan Wirfs has already proven he can deliver in those moments. He has already held up under Super Bowl pressure, under the brightest lights, against the best competition, and bringing that experience into the Cowboys locker room adds a level of confidence that cannot be coached, because confidence comes from knowing you've done it before. And when you imagine Dak stepping into throws without fear, when you imagine the run game leaning on defenses late in the fourth quarter, when you imagine play action freezing linebackers because protection is solid, you start to see how one move can elevate an entire operation. And that is why this news feels different, because it aligns with need, timing, philosophy, and ambition. And Cowboys fans have every reason to be excited, but also to understand that this is about more than hype. It is about foundation. And championship teams are built on foundations, not headlines. And while nothing is official yet, the idea that Tristan Wirfs would say yes to Dallas speaks volumes about how this organization is viewed internally and externally, because elite players choose situations where they can win, where their skills are maximized, and where their legacy can grow. And Dallas offers that platform, that spotlight, that opportunity. And if this move becomes reality, the Cowboys' offensive line does not just improve, it transforms. It becomes feared, it becomes respected, and it becomes the backbone of a team that is tired of being doubted, tired of being questioned, and ready to take the next step, because the window is open. The roster is loaded, and moves like this are how contenders separate themselves from pretenders. And Cowboys Nation should savor this moment, because hope rooted in substance is different from hope rooted in hype. And Tristan Wirfs represents substance, strength, and stability.